Well, I would do that. I'm shit at gardening. Everyone who's better at gardening than me is a witch. Give me all your land so I can fuck that up too. And when the land fails to grow, because I am functionally useless at growing anything, I will also blame witches. Hold hands and close your eyes. It's midnight, and you're listening to the Ghost Story Guys. Welcome to the Ghost Story Guys. I'm Brennan Storr.
I'm Paul Bestel.
And this is the show where we talk about spooks, specters, and all the other things watching us from the shadows beyond the campfire. Some conversations only make sense after the sun has set, and this is most definitely one. Thanks for tuning in. This is episode number 220, and we're coming to you from that tiny mountain cabin you dream about, but can never quite reach. Paul, my friend, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Very well. I've had my phone fixed today, so I'm very happy.
Excellent. And was it a relatively inexpensive repair?
Yes, I had a wobbly charging port.
Oh, okay. Yep. Those are usually not too bad. I know when I broke the screen on my last phone, I took it in and they said, that'll be $500, please. And I said, no.
Yes, that's why I have insurance.
Smart. There was one phone I didn't get it, and it was the one phone I needed it.
Yes, but other than that, we're all good. Steady away. I mean, it's been ages since we've spoken. So, yes, that's about all I can tell you. That's all that's really changed in 24 hours, mate. Yeah, no, that's fair. Nothing new for me. Although I do have, before we get to our stories, which on this episode, we're going to be talking about the province of Quebec. As we head into the last couple episodes of our wet, hot Canadian summer. It has been such a wet and hot summer here in Ontario. I think we might actually go a little bit into September because I still want to do... I actually found a great trove of just Montreal-centric stories. So I want to do just a Montreal episode, hopefully that Vancouver show, and then the Maritimes at the very least. So got a little more Canada ahead of you folks. But before we get there, I have both a rant and a synchronicity. So recently I bought new headphones. I bought these. When I financed my phone, I also threw in a pair of the new Samsung Galaxy earbuds. And they're really great, the noise canceling especially, because I sometimes get, the tism, right? For me, sometimes too much noise is a real problem. Too much light, too much noise. So I plug in the noise canceling headphones, bring them with me, sometimes even if I'm not listening to anything, just dampening down the sound. And they have been great. But I finally found the one thing even they cannot surmount. It's boomer stupidity. So I was in the diner that I like to go to, the Little Beaver, over in Kamoka. Yes, I know. Where I go for their pie. I bet you do.
So yes, I went to the Little Beaver. I thought I'd get some breakfast along with my pie. And it was a very busy day. It was a very popular place.
I bet it is. Everybody wants a bit of Little Beaver.
There was one day in there, the air conditioning broke. It was so humid, they had to close the place because it was too slick to walk anywhere. But anyways, so I was in the diner and it was very loud. So I thought, okay, I want to enjoy my lemon meringue pie. I'm going to put it in my noise canceling headphones. And they did a pretty good job of dampening out most of the sounds, with the exception of this group of older gentlemen behind me. Now, the thing is, it's a busy place. You're going to hear conversation. That's fine. I don't expect the world to be quiet for me and me alone. However, the stupidity. I left just as one of these gentlemen was talking about how he recently called the police on the deer in his yard. Yeah. And then, to make matters worse, he was bitching about and mocking the stature of the female officer who responded to the call. Like he was expecting the OPP to dispatch Officer fucking Theagenes to wrestle this deer into submission.
It should have taken that deer to the Little Beaver.
Next time.
Not on the first date.
That's it. Yeah. You gotta work up to these things. You can't just go straight to the Little Beaver. You know what? Let's move on. Let's move on to
let's leave the beaver alone.
Put the beaver down. No, we're gonna put the beaver down, and we're going to talk about the province of Quebec. And Paul, you noticed something in the notes which I wanted to bring up here. So it was just a little thing, but I was in a coffee shop today, and now this is a very popular coffee shop full of people, families, and there is one barista in particular who, for some reason, decided to put on sort of a 2000s playlist. which is fine. This is the music of my youth, as it were, so that's fine. I have no problem with this. And Puddle of Mud's She Hates Me came on. Now, I've never been much of a Puddle of Mud fan generally, but then I was like, what the fuck ever happened to Puddle of Mud? Because it occurred to me I had not heard that name in, 20 years. So I looked them up on Wikipedia, and as it turns out, Puddle of Mud are still around, or I should say a band that is essentially a Puddle of Mud tribute act with Wes Scantlin, the lead singer, still leading it. But as it turned out, we are doing Quebec today, and on August 18th, 2017, a festival in Quebec at Thetford Mines had to cancel a performance by the band who were headlining because none of them fucking turned up at the airport. They just never came. And no reason whatsoever was given for this. I thought, this is why he's the only one left in his band, because he's a piece of shit. So I just thought it was a funny little coincidence that on the day we happen to be covering Quebec, I hear a terrible 2000s band that fucked over someone in Quebec.
Strangely for you, I've met Wes.
Really?
Yep. By complete chance, I was in Dublin for my 30th, and they were playing there at the same time, which I thought was very kind of them. And I don't know if they were performing for my benefit, but I didn't go. Anyway, however, so during the first day I was in Dublin, I was wandering around, and obviously I clocked them, because you can tell signed bands by the way they carry themselves. However,
right,
he was charming, friendly, delightful company. He spent a good hour speaking with all the buskers in the Temple Square in Dublin, helping tuning up all the guitars, giving them tips about how to change pitch and notes. It was remarkable, I thought. That was in 2002. And I thought, what a nice chap. Don't like the band. What a nice chap. However, let's fast forward. Strangely, you mentioned that gig in 2017. I'm going to read you what happened the year previous when they played Yorkshire. Puddle of Mud frontman Wes Scantlin was left on stage by his bandmates partway through a concert in Doncaster, England last week, as the singer staged sitting shirtless in a chair with the audience berating him over the night's performance. The sold-out 500-person Diamond Live Lounge audience was clearly disappointed with the band's headlining set, with many alleging that Scantlin was clearly under the influence of drugs or alcohol or both. Scantlin has been having reoccurring legal issues lately. Last year he was arrested twice on DUI charges. In January he was charged with felony vandalism after he was arrested at a home he'd recently lost due to foreclosure. An early fan-shot video from the concert shows the singer seemingly struggling with the band's hit Blurry as he collapsed halfway through the song to the floor and wouldn't get up. Another clip from the night shows Scantlin walking off stage to the crowd jeering and booing him. But worst of all is that then later in the gig, Scantlin refused to leave the stage after his band left him up there later and cutting the band so short. Instead, he remained sitting shirtless on a chair, speaking to the crowd until the venue cut his microphone off. He told the audience, "My band, Puddle of Mud, who I thought were my band, has quit on me. They've stopped playing with me," which isn't a surprise. Scantlin then thanked them for coming and walked off. So that was 9 years ago. And so the following year, they tried to come back, and the gig was cancelled because they sold 3 tickets. As with anything, if there's one thing I know about the music industry is it is not designed for vulnerable people. And clearly, he's not the first and he won't be the last. His appetite for things has overridden his interest in being a musician, sadly. Like you say, I mean, these are things that were happening 9-10 years ago, and there doesn't seem to be any particular change.
We start this episode with a ghost of Wes Scantlin's career, but we have more.
Poor Wes. Have a good night, Wes.
We're sorry. Good luck to you. Get some help. So yes, we start with that particular very scary ghost, and we will go forward to stories of the great province of Quebec, with haunted places like the Cathedral of the Holy Trinity, Morin Centre, and the Chateau Frontenac in Quebec City. There's Montmorency Falls, and so much more. Quebec is chock full of hauntings. Again, so many we're going to do a separate episode for Montreal itself. But before we can tell any of those stories, we have to thank our patrons.
This one's for the patrons.
Patrons, we could not do what we do, namely make fun of Puddle of Mud frontman Wes Scantlin without you. So thank you. Thank you. For real, guys. Every single person who downloads the Ghost Story Guys, you help make us who we are. But the folks who support us financially, you are the ones who truly allow the show to continue. Without you, we just couldn't do it. So again, we deeply appreciate every single one of you. And while we'd like to thank all of our paying subscribers through Apple Podcasts, Patreon, and YouTube, we would especially right now like to thank our most recent ones. They are
Dwayne Sharp,
Don Tonic,
David Prescott,
Amanda Ninehouse,
Mandy B. Siegel,
Aaliyah Horvath,
Cynthia Maguire Teal.
Again, thank you so much from the bottom of our terrible hearts. We could not do this without you. Again, we mean it when we say it. And if you would like to get access to early ad-free releases, bonus conversations between myself and Paul, bonus spooky shows, our monthly live stream, Ghost Force shoutouts, and so much more, click the link at the top of the show notes or head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. Again, that's patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. Or you can become a friend of the cabin via Apple Podcasts or YouTube. All right, gird your loins and bury ye your puddles of mud, for we journey forward into the stories of Quebec. The Dag Farm. This story is about our summer trip to the Dag Farm. This farm is well known around the Pontiac region in western Quebec for a famous poltergeist that harassed the family there in 1889. The Dag family is still a large family in the area, and the graveyards around town have lots of old Dag family members buried there. Finding the Dag Farm, it seems, is a rite of passage for the local kids, as everyone I've spoken to about it has been there at least once. It took us 4 or 5 times to finally find the place, an old wood house completely surrounded by large trees, which hides it from the road. On the day we finally found the place, it was just at sunset like we planned. We had 2 flashlights and a patio torch that burned lamp oil. This was my first ghost hunt, and I thought having fire would add to the mystique. The house does have a strange vibe to it. Once we crossed the trees, everything went quiet. We could no longer hear the wind in the trees or the birds singing. This place is in the back corner of a cornfield with an intersection of 2 dirt roads nearby. Beyond the roads is all forest. It was unnerving for it to be so quiet, but we continued on anyway. The house had a small porch in front of what we assumed was a back door. All wood of the house had faded from white to a pale gray. In the first room downstairs was a big hole where the stairs to the cellar used to be. When we shined our light down it, it was like the light was swallowed. It wouldn't reach the dirt floor, which couldn't have been more than 4 or 5 feet below us. Very strange. The walls were all exposed studs, as if someone had ripped all the old plank boards off the walls, and there was a random old metal tricycle in there, too. It was faded green and parked in the corner of the room with its front wheel to the wall. We went up to the second floor on very old and rotten steps. At the top, 2 rooms branched off, one smaller than the other. Inside, people had spray-painted silly things, but I just couldn't get my feet to take me into any of the rooms. I didn't feel like I was being watched. It wasn't a cold spot. I just couldn't do it. The worst things at the Dag Farm happened to us in the barns out back. There were 2 of them. One was clearly where they kept horses, complete with a hayloft on the top. The barn still had its stalls for the individual horses, with old hay rotting in the loft. It was very dark. A lot of rusted old tools scattered on the floor with some newer beer cans from previous visits. When all 3 of us had completely gotten into the barn, a rope, which was hanging from the ceiling between the hayloft and the barn, started to swing back and forth. It was the strangest thing I have seen in my life, as if someone had slowly pulled it back, then let it go. It was an old fiber rope, hard to explain, but I see a lot of this kind of rope around the old farms in the area. We didn't stick around to see when or if it stopped. We got out of there. The second barn was a bit newer than the other one, but still old. It was clearly used for the tractors and farm implements. It wasn't very big, but one side had 3 walls with an open part at the front. The second part had 4 walls with a big door on the front. I walked to the dark open part, as neither of my other friends would go in after what had just happened with the rope. To the left there were stairs leading to the top floor. This still gives me creeps as I write this, but past the stairs it was very dark, with just a bit of the newly risen moon shining in, and I swear I saw something come out of the shadow and look right at me. It was just a vague outline of something darker than the darkness around it. I could clearly see the outline of a head and shoulders, and the head actually turned to look at me. I got this horrible feeling like I shouldn't be there and ran out as fast as I could. I didn't stop when I reached my friends. I just told them to come with me, and we booked it back to the car. I have goosebumps all over my body right now just remembering it. And now, Paul, you are, of course, familiar with the Dag Poltergeist. Can you fill us in?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting case because I like poltergeist cases that are a bit odder than normal. And the Dag Poltergeist is smack bang in the this is a bit odd portion of poltergeist phenomenon. And primarily because this is one of the few poltergeist cases that we have a talking spirit that converses primarily with Dina, who was the daughter of the Dags, who was adopted. She was a Scottish orphan. I think she was born in Glasgow. I'm not sure how she ended up being adopted, but anyway, it's probably one of those where they were sending orphans abroad, I would imagine, in that period. It wouldn't surprise me. And it began to have a kind of conversational relationship with Dina, which at first was extremely abusive. It was described as being extremely potty-mouthed, effing and jeffing, shall we say. However, it began to warm to Dina to the extent that when the story got out, it began to perform for the visitors, and there were dozens, if not hundreds, of people that would come round to the Dag farm to hear the spirit sing, which it was known to do. It liked to like singing and performing. People would come day in, day out for a while to listen to the spirit talk and tell jokes and sing and basically perform for them. Until one day it announced that it had decided it was going to go back to heaven where it came from, and it would never perform again. And with a great big flash of light, it shot up from the shed into the sky and never returned. And that was that. But it's one of them. It starts really, usual stuff being moved around, things being thrown. But this one's also a fire one as well. I think the most number of spontaneous fires they recorded in one day was 8 that was started.
Oh, God.
So it's very similar to the Amherst case, another one of Canada's most famous poltergeist cases, where that was a fire starter as well. And you don't get many of them. And so to have 2 within about 10 years of each other is in Canada is quite peculiar. So I don't think you'd get that. I don't think that's happened here, though I might be mistaken. But yeah, it's a great case, primarily because you had numerous witnesses. People signed a proclamation stating that everything they'd witnessed and spoken about was true. Other people signed affidavits or whatever to confirm that their belief of everything that was true. And so the general dismissal of this case was, well, it was just Dina showing off, often falls down with, well, how could she perform in front of hundreds of people without anybody noticing that she was miming? She didn't have or wasn't known to have a talent for singing. Nobody said that she was a well-versed singer or someone that performed in general. It was one of those that it seemed to purvey knowledge that a young girl possibly wouldn't have any idea about. And also the fact that when it said it was off, it went. That was it. It didn't come back. Nobody pretended it came back. Dina wasn't caught cheating or anything. And it served no purpose. The family didn't make lots of money out of it. They didn't become rich and famous through it. As far as they were concerned, it was a pain in the arse for a few weeks until it decided it liked them. And then I suppose it was another pain in the arse because then they couldn't stop the bloody thing singing. So, yeah, it's a great case.
There was an article I read by a woman named Arlene Stafford Wilson, which I've linked in the script, and there's a couple things that I noticed that were kind of, one actually reminded me of a conversation we had yesterday on the Patron Live show, because we were talking about how these dipshits have turned up and tried to, the day after Ozzy Osbourne died, they tried to channel him, because God forbid anyone be allowed a moment of dignity. And I think that for anyone, honestly, like, even if someone had tried to fucking channel Hulk Hogan, I don't know why the fuck you want to talk to him, but even if they did, that would be gross too. And in the story of the Dag Poltergeist, she mentions the Witch of Plum Hollow.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes to the Witch of Plum Hollow, and the Witch of Plum Hollow basically says, oh, this is being caused by the evil woman living next door and her 2 boys because she hates you. And that poor fucking woman, they were all ready to torches and pitchforks her. And she came over. It's like, hey, guys, I am completely ambivalent to your existence. I don't know what the fuck this crazy ass woman is talking about. But all it took was this, self-styled expert to just throw some shit out there to make up an excuse. Oh, you're being enchanted by the evil single mother next door. Because her fucking life's not hard enough already. You crazy hedge witch.
Yeah, looks like somebody was a big fan of Salem.
Yeah, exactly. They really had it right there. Let's do a murder.
It's been centuries since someone's been crushed to death with large rocks. Let's do that again.
I woke up this morning, I looked in the mirror, I thought, I feel kind of fat today. I want to fuck up someone else's life.
Yeah, I want to steal somebody's farmland by pretending they're a witch.
Ah, there we go. Now that makes sense.
How could that person grow corn better than I can? Is basically why people were accused of being witches, is essentially most of the time.
Of course. I would do that. I'm shit at gardening. Everyone who's better at gardening than me is a witch. Give me all your land so I can fuck that up too. And when the land fails to grow, because I am functionally useless at growing anything, I will also blame witches. God, I just realized this is how so many people have climbed the corporate ladder. That's just a modern version of blaming people for a witch.
Yep, of course it is.
Oh my God, Paul, I gotta go. I'm gonna go achieve total corporate supremacy.
Yeah.
And crush a few nation states. I'll be back when I am emperor of all things.
Good for you.
Before I do become lord of all things, I noticed that the real tragedy of that case, for real, is that Dina, they sent her away.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. And what's even worse is the newspapers sort of portray that as she was sent away and then it stopped. So I guess it was her all the time. No mention of the light, no mention of it stopping before they sent her away. So that's kind of dark. Like, it's again, we're blaming this little girl. We're blaming the woman. We couldn't blame the single mom with the 2 fucking kids. Let's blame the child. She can't fight back. Look at her tiny fists.
Yeah. Well, the same thing happened in Amherst with Esther Cox. That's exactly what they did with her.
Really?
That was the thing. They wanted a break. Basically, go and stay with your aunt for a bit. Go on. I mean, there was a case here in the 70s, so not that long ago, in Bournemouth. The Abbott Road poltergeist, and that's one that doesn't get talked about a lot. The family just have never spoken about it since it happened.
Oh, interesting. That seems to be rare.
And they basically fostered children. They had 2 foster children, and this one they presumed it was the youngest, the boy, that was the focal point.
Right.
And eventually they just sent him back to the home.
What the fuck?
They never said they knew it was him or that he wasn't a poltergeist. Because there is footage out there of pictures and things. I mean, the front room looks like a bomb's gone off. Everything's all over the place. Telly's over, furniture's everywhere, books and plates, everything's smashed to bits. So it's like a bomb site. And it was in the local press for a few weeks. And then about a year later, it turned out that after this, they'd kind of asked the children's home to take him back.
What the fuck?
But they were fosterers, so they were people that had fostered kids a lot. So they weren't like somebody going, oh, because their other daughter, who was slightly older, she was also a foster child, and she stayed. So I don't know, but that's the most modern version of it. I mean, it happened at it didn't happen at Enfield. Janet went for medical treatment at a private hospital somewhere that was arranged. I'm not sure if the SPI helped arrange it, but that certainly went. And she went there for about 6 weeks for psychological evaluation and came back with a complete clean bill of health. She wasn't mentally ill. She wasn't a performer. She wasn't doing things for attention. And nothing happened while she was there. And then when she came back, it
Interesting.
popped back up again. But that's one of them things they don't like to talk about, that, because that basically says that she weren't faking it. Because if you're going to fake it, you're going to fake it wherever you are, aren't you? You're not going to like, oh, well, I'll take a break as well. But I would imagine if you look at more of these cases from that period of time, there'll probably be more people that have just gone, sod this, send the kid away.
What the fuck? God damn. I don't know at what point in human history we discovered fucking empathy, but I wish it had happened sooner, and I really hope we don't regress, because it seems like we're in sort of like a new dark age where there's a lot of morons out there who just thought, learning stuff is hard. I'd rather just pretend that, being an idiot is somehow a superior position. And it just seems like empathy is one of the things they're trying to shove off the boat. Kids have fucking thoughts and feelings and shit.
No, don't be daft. You'll be saying they have souls next.
Oh, for Christ's sakes.
I think empathy started when the American Postal Service banned posting children.
Okay, hang on. We can't move on to the next story just yet until you clarify that statement. Posted children. So like that old joke we used to make about, well, we're done with you. We're going to put you in a box, put some lettuce in there, punch holes in the top, and drop you off at the post office. That, but for real.
Yeah. Do you not know about this?
No.
The US Postal Service had a thing where they were just basically saying, pay so much you can send anything, really. So there was no weight limit. And so some people thought, well, Billy hasn't seen his grandparents for a while. Why don't we send him there in the post? Because it's cheaper than getting him on the train. And the Postal Service will look after him. And so they did. It didn't happen that. I think there was about, 15 incidents of it. And they quickly went, no, let's stop doing this. But yeah, people did that. And it's only 100 years ago. It's like 1910s, 1920s this was happening. People were posting kids.
It's that whole thing where people think like kids are an extension of them somehow. They're like an extension of their personality without thoughts or feelings of their own.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where that thing comes from. Because it really happened. People did post their children. I mean, they didn't post them to the dump. They sent them to relatives.
My mum tried.
Yeah,
she
they
tried.
sent them to family members and stuff, but they didn't. They weren't sending them just send them as far away as possible. You live in Florida and you've posted them to Oregon.
Okay, that's something.
No returns on it, But yeah, it happened. It's a matter of fact. It's indisputable. The evidence is there. There are pictures of children in the Postal Service. You can find them if you look for them. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to take a minute to grapple with that.
The Guest. I have another true story to share with you that began last summer when a young woman named Rebecca moved into an apartment which is located next door to my house in Pointe-Gatineau, Quebec. One morning, shortly after moving into her new place, Rebecca came over to my house and she was visibly scared and upset. I invited her in and asked her to tell me what had happened that had upset her so badly. She explained that there was a heavy wooden dining set in her kitchen from the 1970s that was already in the apartment when she moved in. She told me she was standing at the kitchen counter that morning when the heavy wooden dining room chairs started flipping over on their own and sliding across the kitchen floor behind her. I went over to the apartment to see that the chairs were overturned in the kitchen, and I straightened everything out whilst trying unsuccessfully to find a logical explanation. It had scared her half to death, so I reassured her that if anything else happened in her apartment, she was more than welcome to come over to my house at any time if she was that frightened, and that seemed to really calm her down. A couple of days after the chair incident, Rebecca came over to say she'd found her large refrigerator had been toppled over onto the kitchen floor that morning, which was perfectly level. She looked at me and asked, "If it's strong enough to flip a fridge, what can it do to me?" This particular incident scared her very badly, and with good reason, I might add. A week or so after the fridge incident, she came running over again in a panic and asked me to come to her place right away to look at her TV and her lamp. We ran over to her apartment and we both witnessed the television turning on and flipping through all the channels before turning itself off. There was a lamp in the corner of her living room that turned on and off on its own as well. I grabbed the TV remote and removed all the batteries, and whilst the remote was in my hand without the batteries in it, the TV once again turned itself on. and flipped through all the channels with the volume blaring loudly before finally shutting itself off. I put the remote down on her coffee table and thought, lovely, here we go again. But I didn't say a word to Rebecca for obvious reasons. I was worried she'd have a meltdown. A few days after this, Rebecca came over again, first thing in the morning, to tell me that her bedroom door had opened on its own the night before, and she could hear footsteps walking up and down her long hallway that was outside her bedroom. At this point, she was now in tears, exhausted, and completely petrified of staying alone in that apartment. So we both went over to Rebecca's apartment to have a look around once again. This time, however, I was very angry at it. I stood in her hallway near her bedroom for just a moment, listening and trying to figure out who or what the problem was, and if I could get it to leave her home right now. Suddenly, to my surprise and to Rebecca's absolute horror, her closed bedroom door swung open very abruptly on its own. I stood there motionless and heard a swooshing sound before I felt a slight breeze brush past me in the hallway, as though someone had just walked by. It then continued down the hallway, through the living room and right up to the front door. Rebecca stared at me slack-jawed as we then both witnessed it push the door handle down on the screen door, open the door, and slam it very hard on the way out. Poor Rebecca looked like she was going to faint. We never actually saw anyone, but we certainly witnessed someone or something leaving her apartment that day. I made light of it and tried to reassure Rebecca that everything was going to be all right now and she was okay. I said, well, sweetie, whoever it was has probably more important business to take care of today, because we both just saw it leave your house and walk out that front door. So I think you're all good to go now, but let me know if anything else happens, okay? Months later, Rebecca confirmed to me that it never did come back after that day, but she'd since moved out of that apartment. Of course, time will tell if that's truly the case, once some new tenants move in. Well, I think more people should try that and see if we can make them bugger off if they're bothering people.
Sort of the paranormal equivalent of the strongly worded letter?
Yes.
The UN approach.
Stop that.
Please?
Or just stop it.
Come on. Be cool.
Otherwise we'll send James Blunt in again.
And this time you have to keep him.
And you don't want to upset James.
You wouldn't like him when he's angry. I mean, you wouldn't like him when he's not angry either. It's just, he's kind of disagreeable generally. Did I ever tell you the story? Nick and I saw him live in Victoria. As he's performing, she looks over and says, he seems like a prick.
Well, I don't like his music particularly, but I like him.
Oh, okay.
Because he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit, and he's very rude to rude people. It's brilliant.
Oh, okay. Well, I do admire that.
Have you not seen his burns on the internet?
No. I you're gonna be shocked to know I don't spend a lot of time following the social media footprint of James Blunt.
I don't, but people just retweeted. One of my favourites was somebody said, God, I fucking hate James Blunt and that fucking You're Beautiful song. What a wanker. And so he obviously copied it and retweeted it and said, it's your mum's favourite song when I'm shagging her.
All right, well, that's fair. Okay, I respect this.
And he just basically does that. Anybody, if you slag James Blunt off on the internet, he will come for you. And he will share his response to your abuse to his millions of followers, and then they will all laugh at you. So beware. So I quite like that about him. And he's a very intelligent, articulate man. Like I say, I was mentioning the UN. That boy, he was a soldier. He's seen shit.
Oh no, I'm sure.
Yeah, he was involved in a very, very diabolical incident during the Balkan War.
I was going to say, I remember him hearing that he served in the Balkans. That, from everything I've read, that sounds like a living nightmare.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit of a joke, but people say James Blunt stopped World War III starting because I think he was a captain, and what he did stopped something really bad, something even worse happening.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's more to him than twee acoustic guitars.
Well, folks, like the UN, I'm asking you to be cool and not tell James Blunt that my wife thought he seemed like a douchebag.
He might be, Brennan. I don't know. I was saying the very same thing to my friend Wes from Puddle of Mud.
When he called me from rehab.
Got me from Doncaster. I'm just sobered up. Where the fuck am I?
Where's my band? Why does everyone hate me, Paul?
Why is it 2025?
I asked myself that
when I got here, it was 2017. What's happened?
It was the last thing on James Blunt before we get back to the paranormal stuff. I remember reading an interview with him when You're Beautiful was really like blowing up. And he said, basically they asked him, how do you do that when you're performing on stage? He said, well, I try to, you try to make someone's night by like making eye contact with them. You just kind of look into the crowd and you do the chorus. But he said, sometimes when you turn to look, you're looking at someone's boyfriend or something. And you have to keep singing, but you kind of have to do like a, but not you sort of facial expression. Just to, keep everyone happy.
This song's for everybody, but not you.
Not you. You're beautiful platonically.
Bastard.
That's right. It's Wes Scantlin. No, not here too.
Have you seen my band?
Getting back to the story, it kind of sounds again a little poltergeisty.
Yes, but you would suggest that if it's a regular reoccurring thing, then that's not a pult.
Oh, of course, yeah, because those have a defined beginning and end.
So it's quite a physical haunting, but obviously one that's quite a bit of a snowflake. Because if you shout at it goes. Get out! All right. I've got to hold somebody else then. I've seen this farm. There's a farm with a shed. I will go move there.
There we go. Yeah, because it reminded me a little bit of the the haunting from the Uncanny book, the Italian, the Italian one.
Yeah.
That like with a lot of activity in the kitchen. But I mean, this is more intense. Like I will admit, if I had something invisible that could move a fridge, I myself, I weigh about as much as a fridge. I would be concerned.
I mean, anybody with any common sense knows that of household objects you're going to wang about, fridge is probably the last thing you're going to pick.
Yeah, that's it. So again, if you're doing that, you're either trying to make a point, or it just doesn't matter. And I think that might actually be more frightening. But
also the fact that it had to be placed there. It wasn't dropped.
Yeah, that's it.
Because if it wasn't dropped, then you don't hear it, do you? And obviously she didn't hear it because, if you've ever heard a fridge fall over, that's the kind of noise that would wake the dead.
On just ballpark, how many fridges have you heard fall over? I assume it's more than one.
Yeah, a few.
Okay, no, that's fine. I figured. Yeah.
They make less noise with nobody inside them.
I had that coming.
That's the one tip I'll share.
Can you hear the screaming, or was the person no longer in a position to make noise?
You can hear muffled noises.
Jesus fucking Christ.
And it depends on how where you drop it. Concrete stairs aren't good.
Folks didn't know you got a new podcast coming out called Dropping Fridges with Paul.
Fridge tipping.
Fridge tipping with Paul. It's just you committing criminal mischief across the UK.
Hey, that's growing up in Barnsley, mate. We all specialised in criminal mischief. That was our speciality. We were very good at it. Thank you very much.
The day Paul tipped your fridge was the most important day of your life. But for Paul, it was Tuesday.
Yes. Just any other day of criminal mischief.
So before we move on to the next episode of Criminal Mischief with Paul, I found a UFO experience from Gatineau. And so this is in 2006, and this person has written a small novel, so I'm not going to share the whole thing because it's fucking boring and we don't need it. But so they said they were going to an event, and they were going with their father. I got in the car with my dad, and we started the short drive back to my mom's house. Our route took us through residential streets before merging onto Highway 148. I want to mention something which will hopefully increase the confidence and authority of the sighting before I get into what actually happened. My father had been a member of the Canadian Army for 26 years. He was a vehicle technician who worked on base. From a tank to an engine the size of a lawnmower, he could fix just about anything. Oh, coincidentally, his involvement in peacekeeping operations abroad included the Croat-Bosnian War. So that's an interesting little synchronicity right there. That's actually really fucking weird.
And I swear down, I didn't read the additional part. I look at the script. I didn't see that portion of the script, so that wasn't me trying to appear clever or smug or anything. I did not know that was coming.
It says it's a day for synchronicities. But anyways, so this person says, my father and I kept going, and we were now on Highway 148. I saw my father cast a couple of quick, incredibly curious glances out of his window. After a brief moment, he shouted, "Wow, look!" and pointed to the horizon in the north. He stopped the car right away and jumped out into the roadside shoulder. I followed suit. In utter awe and fascination, we stood next to one another. I had never felt anything like it, a jumble of intense fear, paralysis, excitement, joy, and confusion. This should not be happening, but despite what my mind was telling me, it was. There was still plenty of light outside, and the sky was clear, but 2 reddish-orange orbs were whirling and dancing across the sky. Although very bright, these orbs are not blinding. They moved according to no discernible pattern, and there were no distinguishing features that made one orb stand out from another. Imagine having a laser pointer similar to the ones professors occasionally use in universities. This will help you visualize the incredible speed at which these objects were moving. You stand at one end of the gym and activate the laser pointer. The laser point is visible at the opposite end of the wall, but it can move instantly from one point to another with just a flick of your wrist. To be clear, I was not seeing laser pointers in the sky. Rather, these UAPs could move and stop in a pattern similar to how a laser pointer could be moved around a room. These orbs would move erratically in both short and long directions, swiftly changing from one part of the sky to another. No signs of acceleration or exhaust could be seen. In the middle of their dexterous, lightning-fast maneuvers, these orbs could also stop instantly. I do not remember how long my father and I stared at these orbs. Even though it might have only lasted a minute or so, it seemed to last much longer. Both vanished instantly in thin air as quickly as a finger snap, ending the show with highly unpredictable and impossible maneuvers at light speed. I can recall at least 2 other cars pulling off the road to watch this happen, but none of us interacted with one another. We waited a short while after the orbs vanished before re-entering the car and making the brief drive home to my mother's house. The laser pointer thing does make me wonder, is it possible it could be some kind of extreme light? But then what would make that much light, I guess?
Well, yeah.
Wes Scantlin.
People burning their tickets.
All 3 of them were. There was only 2 lights, so one guy kept his.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, there are plenty of atmospheric anomalies that I don't think we know anything about. You only have to look at sprites and how little people really know about them, because they're just balmy, what they are. And we don't see them very often. So sprites are in massive lightning storms, like hundreds of miles across, that happen in the ionosphere.
Oh, okay.
And they are just enormous, barreling, powerful balls of lightning energy, just like miles and miles wide and miles long. You can find footage of sprites that have been captured from the space station. It is amazing. They are, hundreds of miles in size. They are enormous balls of energy, and we know next to nothing about them because of where they are, because they're so high up. But we know they're there because we've seen them, and occasionally you can see them You can see them in the upper atmosphere certainly if the conditions are right. Very similar to the Northern Lights, or the Southern Lights as well, as everybody points out. There happens on both hemispheres. Australia gets it, and the Northern Hemisphere gets it as well. I think it's called the Aurora Australaris down there, rather than the Aurora Borealis up here. Anyway. So there's things like that, and I'm still convinced that what I saw was some kind of weird atmospheric phenomenon that we're not aware of.
Right.
Because I can't explain a ball of fire flying through the sky slowly enough for me to watch it.
No, really. That's fair.
I know some people have claimed to see balls of fire and presumed it must be alien spacecraft, but I'm not convinced. I just know I saw something I've never seen anything like it before or since. But who knows? When it starts doing things like that, and especially when they just stop, and like it's almost as if they pop out of existence or they disappear behind a curtain. I mean, there's a really weird phenomenon where you essentially get a column of light, as though it's like shining down from.
I've seen photos of those. That's really something.
And that's crazy, because that just looks so odd. You would think it must be man-made, but it isn't. It's just one of those really rare natural phenomena that occurs. It's
Or
why does,
is that just what they want you to think?
Maybe it's Jacob's Ladder. I don't know. It's just bloody odd.
Well, while you folks look to the sky for anomalous phenomenon or Wes Scantlin, we are going to take a quick break for some ads.
Wes. Yeah, it's really going to help him into rehab, this, isn't
it? As long as he doesn't have a Google alert set up for his name, he should be fine.
What if one of them 3 people who bought tickets is listening and sends him this? Eh? You know about that?
He's probably staying on one of their couches. Anyways, here's some ads. A white mass. This is a story that happened to my boyfriend and me 2 years ago. For some, it might not necessarily be scary, but for us, it was quite disturbing. I should point out that I've never reacted to fear the way I did that night. My boyfriend is someone who's quite fearless and rarely gets scared of anything. That means he's stupid. Love, that means he's stupid. We weren't under the influence of drugs or alcohol. We also often go for walks at night and explore neighborhoods, so it wasn't the kind of adrenaline you get when doing something new or dangerous. We live in a quiet suburb in Quebec where absolutely nothing happens at night, especially in the neighborhood we were in. It was late, probably 2 a.m, and we were walking through a park. There was a small hill in the distance, and we thought it might be nice to go up and check out the view from the top. Looking out into the distance from the top of the hill, something caught my eye. A white mass was at the bottom of the hill. I looked at it with interest, but I couldn't really tell what it was because of the darkness. It definitely wasn't human, that much was clear. It was too big to be a dog, and certainly not any other animal you'd find in Canada. There were only houses around. At that moment, I felt terrified. Pure fear. My boyfriend still hadn't noticed what was happening, as all of this happened within a few seconds. Then I started hearing footsteps, and my boyfriend heard them too. Something was approaching us. It sounded like human footsteps, as if someone was coming towards us. But the white mass was still at the bottom of the hill. It wasn't standing still, it was moving a little, as if it was searching for something on the ground. But it wasn't what was coming towards us. My boyfriend noticed I was completely frozen in fear. He started to see the white mass too and tried nudging me to snap me out of it. I couldn't move. He ended up grabbing my arm and we ran down the hill. As we were running toward the park exit, we passed by some trees. They blocked our view of the white mass. But once we got past the trees, nothing. No more white figure, no more noise, nothing. We spent the rest of the night anxious, and we even felt like we were being followed on our way home. For some, this story might seem trivial, but it left a mark on us like nothing before. And so, Paul, I assume you heard some of that over the noise of the pigeons outside.
Yes, I did.
Good. Well, I'm glad someone did. Folks, I'm going to try and peel as much of that out as I can, but Paul has the cat scratching at the door. I have pigeons outside.
It's like animal magic.
Oh, man. I actually bought a bunch of stuff to start clearing off all the pigeon shit, but I have to get a particular kind of respirator.
Yes, you do.
Because pigeon shit is dangerous. So I'm still waiting for that to turn up. But once that's in, I'm going to start clearing some of that out because they're adorable, but there's shit everywhere. And I just want to have somewhere to go out, have a coffee and smoke a joint. And right now it just, everything is covered in pigeon dew.
Yeah, I've had nights like that.
Well, tipping fridges.
Into rivers. Not really.
With Wes Scantlin inside.
With all my Puddle of Mud records inside it.
So what do you think of that one? That seems like, I don't know, I can't tell if that actually feels like a nature thing or if that's maybe two different things happening at the same time and you're sort of conflating them.
It's difficult because there's no real sort of distinctive description of it other than it being a white sort of amorphous mass. So it could be anything, and I wouldn't know. I'd need to know a bit more data in regards to exactly where that was, because who knows? I mean, obviously Quebec has a history of stories of loup-garou and werewolves. It's got Sasquatch cases if you search for them, including some would say one of the best pictures ever of a Bigfoot in Canada. It's been taken in Quebec. So
really,
yeah, the Beast of Sept-Chutes.
I don't think we've talked about that. I'm gonna have a look here.
I like to surprise you.
You're very good at it. I always appreciate it.
Yeah, Beast of Sept-Chutes, ironically, looks very similar to that video I sent you earlier on of that footage from the Sierra Nevadas earlier.
I'll be damned. Parc of the Seven Falls. Interesting. I wonder where that is in Quebec overall.
It's above Montreal and is it Laval? It's above Laval.
Okay, yeah, they're next to each other.
Yeah, across the river, aren't they? I think.
Yeah.
See, I do know as much more than I think about Quebec.
I don't feel like there's a topic I can ask you about where I think it's unreasonable for me to ask you.
Cars.
I assume, okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Motorbikes.
Anything of the motor variety. The motor in a fridge is fine.
Cricket.
But, interesting. What about baseball? You a baseball guy?
No.
Okay, yeah. So Parc is it's northwest of Montreal. I would say more west than north.
Yep.
Interesting.
And that picture, people have been to the site, and there is no tree stump there. That is not pareidolia. Have you seen the picture?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, that's not pareidolia.
No, it almost looks like it has like a snout or like a proboscis kind of thing, is it a proboscis monkey? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
It looks quite similar to a baboon.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that white thing it's holding is allegedly was a dog.
Ugh, I don't love that. Interesting. Well, I know I think I told you, we talked about this many times, and it's Montreal, but still, in Pierrefonds, which is, it's in northeast of Montreal, Sept-Chutes, not northwest. Pierrefonds is west of Montreal. And that's where the dude I was in improv with, Omar, that's where he saw Bigfoot that night. Or something. Something was very tall, very dark, and had like kind of eye shine.
Yeah.
Basically. Watching him from the trees. He said it scared the absolute shit out of him.
It's very odd. And I think it's down to, for that, because of Quebec, I think it's because the majority of Sasquatch and Bigfoot researchers don't speak French.
That's fair. And I got to say, the French, especially in rural Quebec, they don't want to talk to you. The end. Go fuck yourself and die.
Yeah, well, envy does
Anglo
that
to you, swine. All we are left with is this dead moon language. It's a Futurama joke.
And a UFO cult.
Oh, we're going to be talking about the UFO cult shortly.
Well, I didn't think we could go to Quebec and not pay a visit to Rael, the weird fucker.
All right. So we're going to take a quick break from stories because we're going to talk about a legendary cult from Quebec who are still active. Yeah. So they are the Raelians. And Paul, take it away.
Where would you like me to start?
Well, I guess we should explain who Rael is, the former race car driver and lord of this world.
Yes. So Rael, I've forgotten his real name, was a pretty normal French bloke who claimed in the early 70s to having encountered some aliens who had a chat with him and said, do you want to come visit our planet? And so he did. Yeah, of course I will. So they went and he did that. And he came back and he began to preach the Raelian way, which is essentially a alien UFO-based cult that essentially started in the south of France, began to sort of garner international devotees. People would come. As with anything, it all starts off with a message of peace and love and unity and universal truth, and only we have the answers to save this planet, and everybody needs to do all this. And as with anything, it slowly began to move into sort of darker areas. But the thing that I suppose marks the Raelians out, and Rael especially, is he's an arch publicist. He loves, not too much these days, because he's kind of the modern media lens. He doesn't like it. Well, he doesn't like being asked questions generally. Basically what he says goes, and you can't question it at all.
Always a sign of someone you should rely on.
Absolutely. And if he was anybody else, he'd be an international fugitive, essentially. But because he's a cult leader, he kind of goes... I mean, as far as I'm aware, he's in Japan these days. And he's
I didn't know that.
Branch. Yeah, he started a new branch of Raelianism out there. Once again, oddly surrounding himself with a lot of very young women, which seems to be a theme for Rael. But yeah, so they were dogged with a lot of controversy, sex abuse, child abuse. There's we're talking the full gambit of sexual abuse of women and minors and men as well. They claimed to have cloned a human at the end of the 90s. Strangely, quite after Dolly the sheep was cloned by the British, Rael and his team, he had a woman called, what's she called? Brigitte Bachelet or something. She was like his official scientist. She was the sort of front person for the cloning experiments. That was all bollocks, obviously. They hadn't cloned anybody, just had sex with someone and they'd had a child. And so essentially, France got too hot for them. They'd already started making inroads into international... I mean, they had an office in the UK. I don't know if they still have, but I know they certainly did. They came to France. They came from France to Quebec. They did the same thing there. They were going to open an interplanetary space embassy in Quebec, because one of the other things about Raelians is once you're in it, you've got to give 10% of your annual income to the Rails. 3% goes to the country you live in, their church, and 7% goes to international development of the Raelians.
So to pay for his lifestyle, basically.
Oh, no, not at all. That's very cynical of you. It's trying to spread the message of Raelians. Come on, stop being so cynical. Goodness me. And so they did the same thing in Quebec. Once again, shit at the fan, tax avoidance, debts, sex abuse, allegations, all kinds of stuff, theft, mind control, whatever. And he just fucked off and then turned up in Japan. And that's where the latest thing is. Now, as I oddly alluded to when you mentioned about Eddie Murphy rebooting Clouseau, obviously when he's said about it, he's obviously going to play Clouseau as a character from one of the French colonies or one of the countries that the French colonialised in the 18th centuries. The strange thing about the Raelians is everybody thought they'd kind of disappeared because they were one of those new age cults, they attracted a certain type of people. And if you look at their early stuff and what he was saying, it's all pretty standard contactee stuff. But he kind of took it further by then saying, I am their messenger on earth. And there's a lot of, I'm actually, he's claimed to have been, he is the reincarnation of Jesus. It's a real mishmash of religion, from Buddhism to Judaism, Christianity. He's just kind of mushed it all together to create this thing where that Jesus Christ is an alien, basically. And he is the latest incarnation of this. And he's claimed other famous people, it's always famous people, isn't it, strangely, were the reincarnation of Jesus Christ in the past. And he is the latest embodiment of their messenger on earth. Now, this is one of those things that it came on late, really quite late on, I think, in the Raelians' history. It probably didn't say it till about, 15, 20 years ago. Like I say, he loves attention of a certain type anyway. But the weird thing about it is that they've never really taken off anywhere people speak English as the main language. This is a very interesting thing about them. Whilst they've kind of made inroads into America and the UK and certain other countries in Europe, their hold seems to be purely in French-speaking provinces and countries, which is odd why he's ended up in Japan. But I think that's probably one of the few places. I would suspect there might be something to do with extradition treaties is the reason he's in Japan, personally speaking. But hey, we're trying not to be cynical here. And so the Raelians are having a bit of an uptick. However, it's in a very unusual area. It is in the western coast of Africa. So obviously there's a lot of French-speaking countries on the sort of North Africa down the western side. And so the Raelians are finding the Côte d'Ivoire and Cameroon have become real hotbeds of new recruits. And so they've gone from like a couple of dozen to several hundred in about 10 years. And they are growing year on year. So they're getting people who are turning away from Islam and Christianity and converting to Raelism. And it's growing there for some reason. And so even as Rael, despite him claiming to be, immortal and all that crap, because once again, they've got reincarnations all wrapped up in this, which is obviously a Buddhist tract.
And folks, if you want to understand what Rael looks like, I want you to imagine Bob Ross if he lived in a van.
Imagine the worst hipster you ever met who still thinks he's got a full head of hair at 83.
And he doesn't shower every day because you don't need to, really.
Raelianism cleanses him.
But sorry, continue.
So despite the fact that people thought they were dead and buried, they're having a little bit of an uptick. Now, how that works out in that particular area of Africa will be quite interesting, because that's not something... I mean, you often get cults and certain belief systems that can sometimes cause incredible scenes of carnage, which has happened in the past with civil wars. And you look at certain countries that still have a real sort of endemic belief in witchcraft and, you know, penis stealing and all that crap. Which you look at sometimes and you think, well, why is this being reported? You know, you have people having interviews with men going, yes, this woman, she touched me on the shoulder and my penis disappeared. Are you fucking for real, mate? Well, shall we have a look? And they never do. This is what... Right, you're on telly saying your cock's disappeared, mate. Show me. Where is it? And they never... Because if somebody said to you, right, on telly, yeah, this woman touched me on my shoulder, my cock's vanished. Well, let's find out, shall we? Let's have a look. And so you've still got these kind of belief systems that are perpetuated. But once again, it's in very specific parts of the continent. It's not, you know, it's one of those... Not everybody has these. It's like Zimbabwe and Mozambique have stories like this quite regularly. The 14 Times seem to be obsessed with Zimbabwe cock stealing stories for a while. And you just like, when you've read one, you've read them all, because you know they're bollocks. You know, there's not, ironically, it's absolute bollocks. There's nothing to them. It's nonsense. It's perpetuating stereotypical bullshit towards women in that kind of misogynistic way. It's just dressed up as witchcraft. That's all it is.
Sure.
Where the Raelians go from here, because they've only been around 50 years, I think, 50-ish. There is a brilliant documentary. I will recommend this to anybody. If you want to know about the Raelians, there is a brilliant documentary on Netflix. It's a 4-part serial. It's in French. I recommend it. It's one of them. I put it on in dubbed. I can't stand stuff. And I thought, I'll give it a while. And everybody had stupid voices. And I thought, no, I'm not doing this. So I sat there and made myself listen to 6 hours of people speaking in French, which gave me flashbacks to school and brought me out in a cold sweat. But I did it, and I found it very enlightening. You'll not see a better documentary about a modern cult in the last 10 years, I would suggest. It is essential viewing for anybody who wants to know more. Everything you need to know that I've just basically give you the clip notes of, is it featured in there and follows their entire journey to where they are, I think, up until about 2 years ago. So, yeah, watch out.
Okay. Well, and in addition to that, now we have a special report that I found online.
I thought you were going to say, here he is. Fucking hell.
Rael, right here. He's standing right behind me, isn't he? Him and Wes Scantlin. They're just going to beat the fuck out of me. I fucking hate you. All right, so this comes from the website vagabondmuse.com. This is a project of, I believe she's a journalist, Nancy Leon, but she's based out of Montreal, and she went to UFO Land in Valcourt, Quebec, which is run, or was at the time, run by the Raelians. I don't know if it still is.
Yeah, she's in the documentary.
Nancy is?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Okay, fantastic. And I'll include a link to this in the show notes because some of the pictures are pretty great. His name was Claude Vorelon. Rael. He was a sports journalist, she says. But so Nancy, this is how she describes her journey to UFO Land. I'd been intrigued by UFO Land after seeing the website advertised on a car. After hiking down Mont Saint-Hilaire one afternoon, I could hardly believe my eyes. There in the parking lot of this Quebec park, fixed atop a white Ford sedan, right where you'd expect to see a plastic Saint-Hubert's fried chicken, was a hokey plastic flying saucer announcing UFOland.com. So the website that she went to said that UFO Land was built from 5,800 bales of hay and featured the world's tallest replica of DNA, and promised, for the first time on this planet, the public will be able to visit the interior of a UFO. It grandly compared UFO Land to Disneyland and ambitiously announced that after UFO Land Quebec, there would be a UFO Land in Orlando and another in Japan, all devoted to UFOs, space exploration, genetic engineering, and, in italics, the future. Did you just snort? That's the best thing I've ever heard.
Cults have this effect on me.
So, UFO Land, of course, run by the Raelians. who believe humans are product of cloners from outer space, who at any moment before the year 2025, will land at the Raelian Alien Embassy, whose design was inspired by a crop circle Rael saw in a vision. They went, this is in the eastern townships, bordering Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. It's about a 90-minute drive east of Montreal if you're planning on going, or 95 to 2 hours, depending on which way you go. So Nancy went off to check this out. A hand-painted sign off Quebec Rural Route 243 led me down a dirt road to a big barn and a rambling white building, where I was greeted by a sexy French woman in tight leather pants. I told her I'd come to see the alien embassy, the one I'd seen on the website. Well, as it turns out, the one I'd seen online was only a miniature model. The one where the aliens will land has not been built yet, since cash has to be raised to buy the land in Israel. In italics, the chosen place. It was simply too cold for the Elohim to land in Quebec, and we should say that the Elohim is both the planet that Rael claims he was taken to, and also the name of the people, because it's too hard to come up with other names. The 5,800 bales of hay, they were embedded in poured concrete in the 400-foot-long, 4-story-high, Adobe-type building which housed the UFO paraphernalia gift shop, photos of the Miss UFO Land competition, and the 7 thematic halls with exhibits on cloning, genetics, crop circles, nanotechnology, UFO sightings around the world, and other fascinating stuff. The day I arrived, it was dead quiet. I was greeted by the enthusiastic, energetic director who introduced himself as Michel Billat, the director of UFO Land. He guided me past the simple cardboard exhibits to what was supposedly his inner sanctum. Here I turned on my tape recorder, and he gave me his astonishing message from outer space. "You see, Nancy, there is no God," explained Billat. "Human beings and all forms of life on Earth were cloned by scientists 25,000 years more advanced than us, who came here from outer space. These were the Elohim of the Bible, translated from the Hebrew as those who came from the sky. They had the secret of eternal life, DNA and genetic combination, and we are their scientific experiments. Jesus was not resurrected from his tomb at Golgotha, you fucking idiot." That's me editorializing. "He was cloned by these extraterrestrial geneticists, and now that we Earthlings have matured enough to accept and understand our true origins, our true parents are getting ready to return." I assume this was all written, the aliens made this decision before everything started happening in Gaza, because nothing about that suggests to me we are evolved in any way.
We're always at war. They're always talking shit. People who like this essentially have no eye on world situations, often outside of their own country.
I would argue that this guy doesn't have much going on outside of his own skull, or inside it.
Well, perhaps he was overcome by the mirror process that they all have to do.
The mirror. Let me finish, because you got to get the whole message, otherwise you won't be saved by the aliens. Okay. But after we're saved by the aliens, yeah. I'm saving your soul here, Paul. Well, okay, as we're about to learn, there's no point in doing that. But we'll get there.
I hope for my soul.
"And when the Elohim return," Billat continued, "they'll bring back Jesus, Buddha, Moses, Muhammad, Joseph Smith, and all. I love the guy who lied about golden plates. We're going to bring him back.
Good on him.
And all the other prophets they've sent to us over time. They are all still alive, because when they died, their minds and personalities were transferred to fresh clones." "You mean their souls were reincarnated?" "There's no such thing as a soul, Nancy. The belief in a soul reflects a lack of the scientific understanding. Your brain is a biological hard disk that can be erased and loaded with new data. Look at the word reincarnation. It is a scientific transfer of the soul, the DNA, from one body to another. Tell me that you don't understand either consciousness or DNA without telling me you don't understand consciousness or DNA. Life is pure energy. There's no actual spirit coming into the body, no. The soul is the DNA. DNA, not soul, is what animates life." I can feel my skull caving in as I'm reading this.
This is taking me back to all-nighters in the 90s at somebody's house.
Nancy asks, "So when people have a near-death experience, does their DNA leave and come back?" And this is pretty great, because this reflects not only a complete lack of understanding about DNA, but also what it means to have a near-death experience. "No, it's their oxygen that leaves the body," explained Billat, continuing his scientific reasoning for everything. "A near-death experience can be provoked in the laboratory. It is a deprivation of the brain of oxygen. Astronauts have near-death experiences every time they train in that device that reproduces the atmosphere of 7 or 8 Gs. This is just physical, chemical. Depending on whether you're a Christian, Mormon, Buddhist, you see that being when you have this near-death experience. So I would love to hear the stories of all these fucking astronauts who are seeing Jesus whenever they go to train. That must get pretty boring after a while. Hey, Jesus. Yeah. Hey. Anyways, the fact that people claim to experience a tunnel is due to the oxygen deprivation. They're not dead. Their brain is just functioning at a lower level. Nancy, it's only the DNA that animates. So, anyways, Nancy actually, at this point, I would have been running for the hills because I would assume I was about to have something shoved forcibly in my anus. She stuck around. So, good on you, Nancy. Please, no photos inside the UFO. And Nancy says she realized that, there's nothing in there to photograph. That's why they don't want any photos.
It's just a box.
It is. There's nothing but blank white walls. Nothing. They paid $10 for that bitch.
Very minimalistic, these aliens.
It's a Scandinavian aesthetic. Oh, because they're the Nordics.
No. Don't upset them. Don't mention the Nordics.
So anyways, that's more or less the end of it. We're not going to spend any more time on the Raelians. But I read this and I had to share it, folks. And I knew Paul.
Well, I wasn't convinced before.
Well, see, now you know, and you're going to tell us about mirroring, and then we're going to go take an ad break because we haven't punished ourselves enough.
Well, everybody will need a break after this bit, I think. So part of it is they call it sensual meditation.
Sure, that sounds legit.
Which is essentially you have to take off all your clothes. And you all sit outside and you meditate and you look at yourself and you stare at every part of your body from the tips of your toes all the way up. And for the bits of you can't see, you have a mirror on a stick. And what Rael encourages people is that they need to know and look and stare at every part of their bodies. And so this includes people being told to sit with their legs spread apart, with the mirror pointing at their anus, and so they must stare at their own anal passage for at least 15 minutes to understand the anus as part of it. And he will go around and check that they are performing the mirroring correctly. And everybody has to do that because you can't know yourself if you don't know, as he says in the documentary, if you don't know what your arse looks like, you can't know yourself. Essentially.
Well, Paul, I was recently made aware of a young woman who had a photo taken of her lady parts and turned into a bead art painting that she has been assembling using, tiny beads on her coffee table around her kids. So I thought she was just fucking weird, but no, it turns out she's just a Raelian.
Probably.
Well, I go find Wes Scantlin in the hope that he finally kills me for all the things I've said about him, and I no longer have to live in a world where any of these things exist. We're going to take a quick break for some ads.
Out west. Some backstory. This happened when I was 14. My friend lived in a very rural area of western Quebec. Her father owned a dairy farm with lots of land, and I was basically there every other weekend or so. Every year, her father would buy acres of land. There were some really creepy abandoned houses in the middle of the acres, which were surrounded by trees, but this particular incident really got to me. On a snowy afternoon, we decided to explore one of the new acres of land via snowmobile. We did this all of the time, excluding summer, when we would take the four-wheelers. We were 3 girls with time to kill. When we explored, her 2 dogs would always be running behind us, and basically they went everywhere with us. She had a German Shepherd and a Pit Bull, who were the 2 biggest babies on earth. So we went into this new wooded area that we'd never been in before. There was already a path for snowmobiles, and everything seemed normal till we saw something out of the ordinary. On the side of the path, an old man was just standing there staring at us, in the middle of the woods, whilst it was snowing. I looked behind him, and there seemed to be an old mansion. We stopped, and our dog sniffed at the man. He didn't react, but he kept his gaze fixed on us. I remember his eyes being dark and empty. And we asked him if he needed some help, but he didn't react. He did look down at the dogs though, however. We'd had to physically pull the dogs away from him as they were so curious and wouldn't stop sniffing him. I remember that there were footsteps in the snow that weren't ours. And then we got back on the snowmobiles and drove off. About 10 minutes or so, we ended up hitting a dead end, so we decided to go back the way we'd come in, since it was the only way we knew. We were still very spooked out, but we still went that way. And when we returned, that old man wasn't there anymore. The footsteps had disappeared, but the tracks were still visible. It's important to note that it still wasn't snowing that hard on this time. The mansion was no longer in sight either. We just saw trees. The dogs began to sniff where the man had been standing, and they seemed to be as confused as we were. We all looked at each other and didn't understand what we'd just witnessed. After a solid 5 minutes of confusion, we drove back home and didn't sleep at all that night. My friend later told me she went back to investigate with her brother a few days later, but there was still nothing, just trees. I kind of just buried that memory and went on with my life. It had scared me so much that I didn't speak to anybody about it. Of course, we all ended up losing touch when we finished high school, and I recently started talking to these friends again, and one of them mentioned this particular incident. The craziest part is that we all remember that day very vividly. However, when I try and tell people this story, nobody believes me. It sounds really like I made this up, but this man and his experience scared the hell out of me, and I've never experienced something similar to this ever since. And to be honest, it scares me just typing this out.
This reminds me a little bit of one of the stories you were talking about on the most recent episode of your show with Chad.
Yes.
There was in this case, it was the mysterious fellow who had the dog.
Yes, the ghost man, ghost dog near the cemetery.
Yeah. It was also kind of funny on that show that he specifically, because I know Chad doesn't, or I assume Chad doesn't listen to this show, but that he specifically referred to your show as feeling like Johnny Carson.
Yes.
I was fucking thrilled.
Yeah, we did start that. Yeah, he was like that. Yeah. But like I said, I could see Chad as a balladeer, crooning away.
Absolutely.
Very much giving us some of that old Wisconsin magic.
So I'm curious about this one. Like, this almost seems like, time slip is kind of a vague term, but I don't know, the fact that there was a house present and then there wasn't. I mean, it seems like more than just a spirit or even a time slip, given the fact, it feels like more than just like a spirit because obviously the landscape changed. What do you think?
The key thing for me is that the animals were involved in the experience.
Right.
Because clearly you could write it off as people, I don't know, people making something up or God knows how you'd explain them all hallucinating an old man at the same time in front of a house in the middle of the woods. Or that they were really confused and and came back the wrong way. But obviously everything they kind of tell us suggests that they didn't deviate from their course because they couldn't. There was only one way in, one way out, and they came the same way. They knew where they'd been because they could see the tracks. The dogs knew where they'd been because they were sniffing the spot the man had been stood in. I don't know what that is. Maybe I'm focusing on the animal's reaction too much. I mean, I am aware of a time slip story here in the UK, which features a woman and her dog, but I can't remember if the dog responded to what the woman was seeing at the time. It's been a while since I read that report. However, she ended up having a great insight that people dismissed her experience as just fantasy because she claimed that the people were carrying flaming torches and they burnt a certain colour. And at the time, people didn't believe it because I think she said they were like glowing bluey white instead of the typical flaming red you would expect. And then I think about 20 years later, they discovered that the people that lived there 1,000 years ago used certain minerals that when you set them on fire, they glowed bluey white, not red.
Son of a bitch.
And that kind of elevated that particular story. I think it was in Scotland. And it was at winter as well. A car broke down and she had to walk, and that's how she ended up seeing this scene of people. It looked like people searching a bog for bodies. I think there's a whole thing. It's like being a battle and stuff, and they were coming for the dead or whatever. Something, anyway. So you don't really get animals involved in time slip stories, but the fact that they could see it and they reacted to it, and this guy was giving off a scent, But also the dogs didn't react violently either. They just seemed intrigued by this person. I don't think you can put it in any particular paranormal pocket because it doesn't sound like anything, really. And if it is a time slip, why is his footprint still there? Surely they'd have gone.
Yeah, very, very strange. Folks, if you know of anything or have any suggestions, we would love to know what you think. Of course, ghoststoryguys@gmail.com, or of course, find us on the various socials, which we'll tell you about at the end of the show. But yeah, no, it's a strange one. And again, I think it's odd that the dog, as you say, it's odd that the dog alerts. And it kind of puts me in mind of that Sasquatch video you sent me at the top of the show from the Sierra Nevadas. Because the dog, if you look, the dog alerts in that one too, but the people taking the video don't even really notice. But if you scan the background, you see what's actually happening way off in the distance. It's like the dog is aware of what's happening, but it just is aware, but it doesn't seem concerned. The dog hasn't had to sit through Sasquatch Sunset.
I'm glad somebody is, because I'm never doing that.
I slept through that, so you didn't have to.
Good. Thank God for that.
I wanted to share this article I found. So, we always talk about places that, where people say there are tunnels. And 9 times out of 10, there are no tunnels there. People just love to make up the idea of tunnels. Well, this was an article that was published in the Montreal Gazette this year on July 7th. And it is actually a case where the tunnel is real. And so Quebec City, which is the capital of Quebec, and folks, if you don't know Quebec City, it's a very beautiful place, very old, a lot of old architecture, a lot of old buildings. It's very historic, I guess is the word you're looking for. Very cool little city. But they are, like a lot of places, dealing with traffic congestion. And so they're talking about adding bridges and tunnels. And this journalist, Philip Othier, he says, well, actually, there's already a tunnel there. There is apparently a 1.6 kilometer long train tunnel that runs underneath the city with the northern entrance just west of the Saint Sever neighborhood and the southern portal, which is near the St. Lawrence River. And what I think is really interesting about this is, I guess it was built by the Canadian Pacific Railway to transport transatlantic passengers who were getting off in Quebec City. To get them to the rail lines to the north and onto Montreal and the rest of Canada. Because I guess at the time, the masts of the ships were too tall to clear the bridge downstream. So passengers had to get off in Quebec City and then go from there. But what I think is cool, and this is where I think when people think of tunnels, this is what they think of. You can still get in there. The entrance is partially hidden by Champlain Boulevard in Quebec City. It runs along the river. And I guess it's a place known by, according to the author, every rebellious teen as a place to sneak off to. So it's the one time where like a tunnel where all the kids hang out is actually a real place. Far from home. So it might sound bizarre, but when I was 17, I moved to a different country to attend the school there. Sainte-Anne-de-Bellevaux is a small little city near Montreal with a giant McGill U campus next to it. Really nothing special about the city aside from the huge-ass lake. So I was extremely lonely and vulnerable at that time. My whole life got turned upside down. When you add in bitchy students and my social anxiety, you got yourself a girl with depression. Around late October, I started to get paranoid that someone was always next to me and following me around. I would walk down the street and feel a burning gaze on me, enough so that it would make me turn and anxiously look around. The haunted feeling never really left me. When I was home, I felt the presence still. I started hearing unexplainable noises from upstairs, even though I lived on the top floor. Constant thumping and creaking sounds. I felt a presence in the darkest corner of my room, as if something was there and looking at me. A dark figure with no shape or form, but still chilling and palpable. I thought I was going crazy, going so far as to contact my aunt, who is a doctor, and ask her, "Am I going crazy if I'm paranoid 24/7? She said, "You might just be under great stress," so I shrugged it off. Fast forward to March. I was already so drained. The feeling never left, and I kept feeling the gaze and the presence. Being Muslim, there were no mosques nearby for me to visit and pray, so I just kept chanting Bismillah to keep myself sane and safe like my dad always taught. He said, whenever you're scared, talk to God. He will protect you. So I did. In March, it was the 5th month of me being paranoid and terrified of my own shadow, and I felt so depressed as to be suicidal. I didn't feel any joy in life anymore. Constant issues within myself only made it worse. I somehow managed to get through the last 2 months of school and made it out. I got back home and was so relieved. But the feeling never left. It only got worse, and I actually started feeling physical touches. When I would lay down, it laid down on me. Whenever I passed the mirror, I felt like I saw something there. I kept hearing unexplainable sounds, things moving and creaking. I slept with the Quran next to me every single night. It came to the point where I couldn't even sleep properly, feeling that gaze on me. I kept getting deeper and deeper into my depression and felt even more numb than before. I started seeing it, the shapeless something in the darkest corner. It radiated terror. I never felt so alone and helpless. One night I was scrolling through Wikipedia on my computer, and then something caught my attention. There was something next to me staring right at me, and it almost made my heart stop. That's when I decided I needed help. I resigned from university and went to my grandparents. I stayed at their home for quite some time. I decided that I no longer wanted to keep it in me, so I told my other aunt about the strange occurrences. Unlike my parents, she trusted me. Being from a country with a strong religion before Islam, we still have people who practice shamanism. My aunt contacted her and told her our situation, and the lady was kind enough to meet us at her apartment. Some people might say she is fake and a charlatan, but she never charged us anything. She said it's her duty to help people in need, and I believe she does have some powers we cannot fathom. She conducted a ritual. She put a candle next to me and instructed me to close my eyes and not to open them until she finished. She proceeded to chant prayers and gently tapped/hit me with a ritual stick made out of animal hoof, leather ropes, and wood. The candle went wild. The fire was raging and the smoke went completely black, or so my aunt told me. When she was done, and it took about 5 to 8 minutes, I turned around and saw that more than half a candle had already burned and wax pooled on the plate. She said that I am followed by a demon that fed off my misery. She said it always latches onto the most miserable, desperate people who are alone and vulnerable, and they drive them crazy until the body gives up. She told us to buy a small lead ball or ingot, and we did that. Upon returning, she redid the ritual with prayers and fire. She kept praying and chanting. The shaman heated the lead until it liquefied, and when she was nearing the end of the ritual, she threw hot, liquefied lead into the foot pan full of icy cold water. She did it all standing next to me while I was afraid of lead falling on me and getting burned. Fortunately, I was spared from burns and pain. The shaman then proceeded to take out the solidified lead from the water, and she showed me the form of it. It gave me chills. It looked like an ugly face with something sticking out of it. Because of the safety issues, as she called them, involved with purging something like this, she never let me take a picture of the lead. She explained to me what it was and what it needed from me, and then carefully wrapped it in multiple layers of tissues, fabric, and plastic bags. The lady said that we should find a place where no one will ever find it and dig a hole to seal it in there. So we went to a big dumpster that's been in the city for so long and dug a hole big and deep enough to fit the lead form in. She advised us to bathe in salted water to purify the body and clean the negative energy. And here I am a couple years later, completely free of worries and paranoid thoughts. I would say it was a quick recovery process since I was paranoid as a leftover habit, but that first night after the exorcism was the calmest night I'd had in a very long time.
Well, I know where that tradition comes from, so I know where that person's from.
Oh, do tell.
It's Turkey.
Oh, interesting. What gave it away?
Using the lead.
Oh, okay.
It's an Anatolian shamanic ritual.
Fascinating. And I must know, how did you come across this particular bit of information?
I read about it several years ago.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
When I was reading an article about the different types of shamanism in the world. I think I'd seen something about Mongolian shamans.
Okay.
On a program, and that made me quite interested for about a week. So I thought I'd read about others, and I came across this particular practice because obviously they use the eye a lot as well in Anatolia, which essentially is a region in Turkey, basically now. So the Anatolians were a kind of European Indo culture. They had their own language. We have Anatolian sheepdogs, are a very famous and loyal and fierce breed, and they are often used to protect flocks of goats and sheep from bears and wolves. They are badass, but they're also very loving dogs as well. So it is a particular ritual that I think only was practiced in that kind of area in regards to that, and it does exactly that. It pulls the energy or the bad spirit into the lead and throwing it into the water captures it, and then you have to wrap it and bury it so it can't break free of its lead coffin, as it were. As far as I'm aware, I believe there is a living museum in Turkey, one of those living museums where you can go and see people do the old Anatolian practices. I think they still do shamanism rituals there, so you can see it in action if you wish. If you're ever in Turkey, try and find. I think it's called the Anatolian Turkish Living Museum or something. I'm not sure where it is. I don't think it's in Istanbul. But yeah, see if that. I'm sure if you go online, you can see people doing it and stuff. But I'm sure that's 100% where it comes from. The piano. I'll start by giving some context. My great-grandfather bought a large plot of land in the woods of Quebec, where he not only built his home, but also saved old buildings that were about to get destroyed by moving them onto his land. Those buildings dated back to the 1700s and the 1800s, and they were probably houses, as they're quite small and made out of logs. Since then, my parents, who I live with, and my grandparents have also built their homes there. We sometimes rent out these buildings as cottages, and lots of people have said that they've encountered spirits in some way. I myself have stayed in those buildings overnight very often, but I've never experienced anything out of the ordinary for the 18 years I've lived here. That was until a couple of nights ago. My boyfriend and I often hang out in one of those buildings. It's a 2-story high observatory, with stairs on the outside that lead up to the second floor. We went there about 9:30 at night, and accidentally fell asleep on the couch by around 11 o'clock-ish. I woke up suddenly at 1:30. I woke my boyfriend up and prepared to leave. And it's important to note that we're in the middle of the woods. My house is just a 5-minute walk from there, but as he opened the door, we heard a song playing in the distance. I didn't recognise it, but it just sounded like ambient elevator music. He closed the door out of fear, but I brushed it off, as there's a public park not far from here where shady people often hang out at night. Plus, we live near the river, where sound travels easily, so I nonchalantly opened the door again, but this time I heard the piano playing extremely close, as if someone were playing it on the balcony of the building upstairs. It sounded so clear. We didn't bring any speakers, and there were no instruments on the second floor, so it would be impossible for any music to be playing. We both heard this music. It definitely sounded like a song, as it had structure, but I just didn't recognise it. It seemed to be a melancholy classical composition. It sounded kind of sad. Once again I shut the door, and we could only hear it when the door was open, not closed, so it was definitely coming from outside. My initial thought that there was somebody on the balcony upstairs, and at that point we were both now terrified, so I called my mum to come and pick us up. After a couple of minutes she pulled up and we walked down, and the piano music wasn't playing anymore, and there certainly was no signs of a person being above us. We didn't hear any footsteps or any other kind of noises, just that piano. If I was alone, I would have thought it was some kind of mental hallucination, as I was half asleep, but the fact that we had both heard it made it seem so much more real. We got in the car, and she told us that my sibling had woken her up 5 minutes before we called her, because she'd heard a high-pitched noise coming from outside her room. And my mum also told us that when my sibling woke her up, the dog, who's usually a heavy sleeper and very calm at night, was crying. 2 days later, my grandmother, who is very active in our town's community, said that on the same night at 2 a.m, a man supposedly saw a UFO. He said he saw flickering lights in the sky and that they suddenly disappeared. Could these events all be related? They all happened in the same half hour and in the same town. I don't know if this could be helpful, but my grandmother recently moved about 20 antique objects to the second floor, so maybe was there a spirit attached to one of those objects? I'm just having such a hard time explaining where that music was coming from.
So I was thinking about that because we've had a couple stories on here now over the years where there's like a piano where there couldn't be a piano. Because there was one, I want to say like a lighthouse in Nova Scotia. Long time ago, we did a story on here like that. And then, strange. I've got the story from Beaton or Burton, south of Revelstoke, where there was a piano where there's theoretically could be no one playing a piano.
Legendary Stanley Hotel's got a piano playing ghost as well, hasn't it?
If you're going to have them hanging around, you may as well play something.
I thought something strange was going on the other day. I'd taken a break from work and I was just chilling out. I'd been flicking through stuff on my phone and having a look. And then I put my phone in my pocket, went and made a drink, sat down. After about 5 minutes, I started hearing this music. I thought, what's that? And it was the music to a kids' TV show over here from the 70s called The Flumps, which is about a group of plant-based creatures that lived at the bottom of a garden. And their theme music was a brass band. It went, like that. And I could hear this, man. I'm thinking, who the fucking hell's watching The Flumps? Where's that coming from? And how loud are they watching? Because I've got all the windows on. It was a nice day, and I'm wandering around the house, wandering about, going, where's this music coming from? And then, after about 5 minutes, I thought, I'm going to see what time it is. I picked my phone up, and there's a fucking video playing on my phone, and the volume was on, and it was somebody had put the Flump music on a reel, and it was in a loop. And it had just been playing the Flumps for like 10 minutes in my pocket. And I'd completely forgotten what I'd been doing and spent 5 minutes searching the house to find out who was playing the Flumps, and it was my phone. So, sometimes my strangeness does surprise me that I can be, I can tell you which region of the world uses lead in shamanic rituals, but I can't work out why my phone's making a noise.
We all have our areas of expertise, Paul Bestel.
Yes, yeah. So, but I don't think this young lady had accidentally left a reel on in her phone.
No, and I don't think the room or the attic full of antiques had much to do with it either. Although I do want to know exactly what her grandma does to have 20 fucking antiques come in at one time. A lot of import-export happening there, if you know what I mean.
Are they all hollow?
Yeah, exactly. This ghost story brought to you by Bolivia.
My auntie bought a haunted tea chest from Colombia and it vanished. And all was left was a white dusty residue on the floor.
And a duffel bag she told me not to play with.
And a dead parachutist in a tree in the woods.
I told you about the restaurant my friend's son used to work at, where it was in Brooklyn, and everyone got paid cash. And once a week, a package arrived via taxi, and you were to put it on the manager's desk and not fucking touch it. And I'm sure these things are unrelated.
Oh.
It was a South American restaurant. Also perhaps sponsored by Bolivia. Just before we go on the note of Colombia, I think, I've probably told you this before, but back when I was living in Montreal, of course, I had the two roommates, and one of the gals he was fooling around with was some Colombian guy's wife. And I told him, buddy, when he turns up at the door with a machete, I'm just letting him in. And then I'm leaving.
Does he not watch Commando?
He's too busy banging other people's wives. He doesn't have time for things like movies.
Carries on doing that. The only thing he'll be banging is fishes.
All right, folks. Well, that is the end of our Quebec show. Thank you for listening. Of course, if you have any stories from Quebec that we've missed, send us an email, ghoststoryguys@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, all those places. We'll tell you in the C segment. But we would love to hear your stories. And we do have a Montreal episode coming up. So if you have any Montreal-specific stories especially, shoot us a message and we will try to get them in the show. Now we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Hey there, listeners. Before you reach for that skip 15 seconds ahead button, I promise you this isn't an ad. We wanted to take a minute to talk to you about mental health. On this show, I've always tried to be as honest and open as possible about my struggles with depression and anxiety, because even though we've come a long way towards acknowledging the very real damage these things can do, there is still way too much lingering stigma about reaching out for help. And when you start to feel like there's no help, it's easy to start feeling like there's no hope. But Paul has joined me today to remind you there is always hope and there's always help.
We're not going to try and talk you out of self-harming right now, because we know that's not how it works. Instead, what we wanted to do was tell you something now and hope that should things get bad, you'll remember it and make a phone call or send a text message before you make any permanent decisions. As someone who knows all too well just how important mental health can be, it's never too late to reach out.
In Canada, the number to call is 133-456-4566. In the USA, the new number to call is 988. That's 988.
In the UK, the number to call is 116123 or text SHOUT, that's SHOUT, to 85258. In Australia, the number to call is 131114.
However bad shit seems, it will pass. And no matter what your brain might be telling you at any given moment, and believe me when I say I know this intimately, there are people who love you and people who care deeply about how you treat yourself. Should a time come when you find yourself despairing, please know that we've both been where you are, and there is a way back to the world. Take care.
Welcome back. The Ghost Story Guys are Luke Greensmith, who helps us find our stories, Tanya Downing, who helps manage our Facebook community, Sarah Kent, who manages our Reddit community.
Our paranormal conductor is Mr. Brennan Storr.
And of course, my friend and co-host is the one, the only, the inimitable Paul Bestel, the paranormal Johnny Carson, so deemed by one Chad Lewis himself.
Yes.
Host of Mysteries and Monsters. Paul, what's coming up on M&M?
Yeah, so I'm very excited this week as I finally get a chance to sit down with Trey Hudson, who is the leader of the Meadow Project, which is an area of high strangeness that they accidentally stumbled across while searching for a haunted road that was apparently crap. And so whilst they were out investigating, they ended up finding some strange things, and one of the team had a UFO sighting, and they just found this area. Some of the footage they've caught is very odd. There is filmed evidence of transformation of people, strange balls of light, people travelling distances they couldn't possibly travel in the time it recorded, people's GPSs wiping their records. You've got cryptids, you've got UFOs, you've got missing time, all kinds of stuff. It is really fascinating. Trey's video recorded a lot of the evidence. He's been on TV showing some of the footage. It is jaw-dropping because it's either really happening or it's an extremely elaborate hoax. And when you speak to Trey, you know, he's an ex-serviceman, military intelligence. He's a doctor of psychology. His psychology class was taught by the legendary Dr. William Roll, one of the leading parapsychologists of the last 60 years. So it's a very interesting conversation coming from somebody so enmeshed in American intelligence on foreign shores. So it's a fascinating subject. And if nobody knows about the Meadow Project, you really need to check it out because it's high strangeness and then some.
Very cool. And where can everyone find you online?
You can find Mysteries and Monsters across most social media platforms and all good podcast sites.
Fabulous. I'm Largely the Truth on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Letterboxd. And you'll find my horror fiction show, Fear Daily, everywhere fine podcasts live. And of course, none of this would be possible without our patrons. Thanks to every single one of you fine folks. Also to the folks who support us on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. And if you would like to join one of those marvelous communities, click the link in the show notes or head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys, where for as little as $1 a month, you get access to an ad-free feed, and it only gets better from there. You get bonus conversations between myself and Paul, extra spooky shows, host adventures, the monthly live stream, Ghost Force shoutouts, and so much more. And again, you can find more about that by clicking the link in the show notes or by going to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys or becoming a friend of the cabin on Apple Podcasts or YouTube. Paul, my friend, do you have any guest spots to promote?
I have just appeared on the Centre for Fortean Zoology's weekly show, which we talk about all kinds of strange things and strangely end up talking about Spring-Heeled Jack for quite a lot. So that is available everywhere as I speak. as both audio and video, so you can see me looking quite sunny as it was recorded in the day, if you don't think I come out during the day.
Well, I did wonder. Well, as always, I will put a link to that. Actually, since it's a video, I can embed it on our website at ghoststoryguys.com. So just head there and look for the guest spots tab on the blog. As always, if you want to pick up some Ghost Story Guys merch, head to our website at ghoststoryguys.com. You'll find all kinds of cool stuff there, t-shirts, travel mugs, and all manner of goodies. Again, that's ghoststoryguys.com for all your wearable needs. Also, stickers. You can't wear stickers. I mean, I guess you can if you want to. We won't stop you.
Does this trend not happen in Canada where young children decide to cover themselves in stickers? Is that only a British thing?
I don't have a lot of contact with the youth, so I can't tell you. Only one person on this call has recently been to a 5-year-old's birthday party, and it is not me.
Yeah, I got a tattoo whilst I was there, and I said at the time, I guarantee you some of this glitter is going to appear on my bum for no apparent reason at some point. And when I was having a shower earlier, I went, oh, what's that? And there was a piece of fucking glitter, and it got stuck to my arse somehow.
Yeah.
Don't know how it got there, but that's what it does. Whenever I go out, if I go out, I used to get it's one of them, oh, that old story, yeah, you've not been hugging women, Paul, glitter's just attractive. And it is. It just sticks to you. And then you get home and say, oh, what you been doing? I haven't been doing, I've been getting shit-faced, that's what I've been doing.
Look at me. Look, am I in any condition to do anything with anyone right now?
I can't even hug myself, never mind anyone else. Anyway, I'm gonna watch Avengers Endgame for the 383rd time.
Again, if you have a story or something to share or a comment for the show, you want to hear it on a Talk Spooky, send it to ghoststoryguys@gmail.com, or you can send us a message on Facebook. We're the Ghost Story Guys finally made a group. We're on Instagram as The Ghost Story Guys, and we're on Reddit, which we are trying to use more, I swear, at r/Ghost Story Guys podcast. Our theme song is, of course, Radio, Into the Darkness We Go. It's composed and performed by Peter Kursov of Pizzanta Music. Find more from him by searching for Pizzanta Music wherever you get your tunes. And I think that's going to do it.
We'll be back next week, but until then...
I'm trying to think of a Wes Scantlin joke, but I can't think of one. Into the darkness we go, I guess. We've both got noisy birds.
I knew something had happened there because my laptop has a dashboard that appears whenever I'm recording, and that just suddenly appeared, and I thought, I bet it's frozen. And it had. And that's why we record separately. Because you were like that.
I mean, I do have that expression often anyways. But
And then I realised you weren't blinking, and I thought, yeah.
But I took my shorts off, you just can't see it.
Firefox has been updated. I didn't want you to fucking update because now I've lost all me tabs, you twat.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. Oh God, it's so much nicer not having those fucking headphones hanging and having to reach the goddamn microphone over here. It's liberating.
Direct from Kashmir. It's beautiful.
They're sponsored by Kashmir, and then they're sponsored by Bolivia.
Yeah, the East India Company swore by it. Anything that bites you dies.
Oh, that's why the rat died.
Yeah, that's what somebody said, actually. Careful, Paul, you've got some blood in your drug stream. My mum's just sent me a picture of her after cataract surgery, and she looks like she's been on a 10-week bender.
Jesus Christ. I don't think my mom knows how to send pictures on the phone, and it's probably better.
Yeah, but that's the problem of having a pensioner who was an IT teacher.